What are my biggest questions for the Cincinnati Bengals going into the 2019 NFL season? Make sure to stay tuned to find out. What's up, everybody? It's JT Sports Max, you guys, with another video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about my 5 biggest questions for the Cincinnati Bengals going into the 2019 NFL season. Now, before I begin, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I upload NFL videos, NFL content daily. And also make sure to follow me on my social media pages. My Instagram is JT Sports _. The link to my Instagram page is down in the description down below. And also make sure to follow me on Twitter as well. The link to my Twitter is down in the description down below. And my Twitter is the same thing as my Instagram name, JT Sports _. Now, my biggest question for the Cincinnati Bengals going into the 2019 season. So they hired a new coach, Zach Taylor, and basically it's a lot of optimism about the Cincinnati Bengals going into the season. And then Jonah Williams ends up getting injured, which is a huge blow to the offensive line for the Cincinnati Bengals, which is a little bit of a question mark. So my first question for the Cincinnati Bengals is injuries. Can they stay healthy? Injuries absolutely depleted the Cincinnati Bengals last season. Andy Dalton suffered an injury. They suffered a lot of injuries in the secondary, which is a big reason why their secondary struggled last season down the stretch because they were so banged up. A lot of players got injured. A.J. Green was banged up as well. So they suffered a lot of injuries. So the Cincinnati Bengals, if they want to make it to the playoffs this season, they absolutely have to stay healthy. Have to, because if they get injured, their season is pretty much over like we saw last season, and it's pretty much nothing they can do about it. So if Andy Dalton gets injured, I still think they can find a way to make it to the playoffs, because I don't think Andy Dalton is going to make or break the Cincinnati Bengals if he gets injured. A lot of people already want him out anyway. I really like Jeff Driscoll. I like what I saw out of Jeff Driscoll. So if Andy Dalton misses a couple of games, I don't really think that will affect the Bengals down the stretch. But any other position, like injuries to the wide receiver position or at defensive back, then that will potentially hurt the Cincinnati Bengals. So my biggest question is, can they stay healthy? They already lost Jonah Williams out for the season, so now they got to hope and pray that the rest of these guys can stay healthy, because injuries derailed the Cincinnati Bengals last season. So they have to, and I can't stress this enough, they have to stay healthy. So can they stay healthy is a big question for me going into 2019. Next up, my second question is Andy Dalton. Is he going to make it through this season, or is he going to get benched? Andy Dalton. This is it. This is the thin leash that Andy Dalton has this season. Now, Andy Dalton, I don't think he's going to play that bad that he ends up getting benched in the middle of the season, unless the Cincinnati Bengals end up not competing for a playoff spot and near the end of the season. They're like 6-9, or maybe they're like 7-8 or something like that. Then I can see Andy Dalton getting benched, and maybe they put in one of their younger quarterbacks, Ryan Finley or Jeff Driscoll, and just let them play out the season just so they can see where those guys are at. But if the Cincinnati Bengals are competing for a playoff spot, which I believe that they will be, then Andy Dalton should be able to maintain his starting job throughout the season. Because one thing about Andy Dalton, you can bash Andy Dalton all you want to, but he's not going to play that bad that you're absolutely going to have to bench him in the middle of the season. He might have some bad performances, but I never think he will play that bad during the stretch that he'll have to end up getting benched because he's just being god-awful. So I doubt that happens. If Andy Dalton ends up getting benched, it will probably be because the Cincinnati Bengals are competing for a playoff spot, and they want to see what they got in their younger quarterbacks, and that potentially means they're going to move on for Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton was on pace to have a pretty good season. I think last season was on pace to be one of his better seasons before he got injured. At 2,566 passing yards, 21 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and completed 61.9% of his passes. So I think Andy Dalton, he's in that average range. I think a good comparison to Andy Dalton is Ryan Tannehill. Both guys who are pretty mobile, but guys who aren't really going to win you a lot of games. And that's pretty much Andy Dalton. So Andy Dalton with a new head coach and Zach Taylor, he has an offensive-minded coach that should be able to help him out a lot. The wide receiving core is really, really good this year. A.J. Green, he's going to be fully healthy. And you got Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd was the absolute breakout stud last season. If the NFL had a Most Improved Player award, Tyler Boyd would have won it because Tyler Boyd was an absolute monster. I thought Tyler Boyd got robbed for the Pro Bowl. So Andy Dalton also has John Ross. John Ross should be able to do a little bit of something. I believe having an innovative guy like Zach Taylor, he should be able to find ways to get John Ross the ball. But I'm not banking on John Ross really to do anything. So I'm really talking about Tyler Boyd, A.J. Green. I think that's a pretty good wide receiving duo in the NFL. And I think Zach Taylor should be able to help out Andy Dalton a lot in his development because with Marvin Lewis there, Andy Dalton really never really got a lot of good developmental, never really had a good head coach or a quarterback coach to help him develop. So now you have a guy like Zach Taylor. He should be able to get Andy Dalton heading in the right direction. This is a big year for Andy Dalton because best believe Andy Dalton doesn't live up to the standards or expectations that the Cincinnati Bengals organization has for him, then he will most definitely be on his way out because this 2020 quarterback class might be the best quarterback class we've seen all time. So my third question is head coach Zach Taylor. Now, all these coaches in the NFL now, they want the next Sean McVay. That's why Cliff Kingsbury was hired by the Arizona Cardinals. They're looking for him to be the next Sean McVay. This is why the Cincinnati Bengals hired Zach Taylor. Zach Taylor came from that Sean McVay coaching tree. Going to be interesting. He was the quarterback's coach there. So it's going to be interesting to see how he's going to be able to change around the Cincinnati Bengals team. Now, some people think he should be able to help John Ross. I really doubt that because Tavon Austin, when Sean McVay first became the head coach of the LA Rams, Tavon Austin was still on the roster. He couldn't really find a lot to do with Tavon Austin. So I'm still not expecting a lot of John Ross despite Zach Taylor being the head coach. But I do think Zach Taylor is dramatically going to improve that offense. I think Andy Dalton is going to improve a lot because now he really has a real quarterbacks coach who can really get in his ear and really develop Andy Dalton a little bit more because I still think Andy Dalton needs a lot more development. And the scheme that Zach Taylor's going to run, it benefits the quarterback. And basically, Andy Dalton is going to be in the system that best suits him. And that's something that Marvin Lewis never really tried to do. The Cincinnati Bengals, I feel their team, the players that they call on offense, they never tried to build their scheme and their play calling around what Andy Dalton does. Well, I think they just tell Andy Dalton, look, here's a play, go ahead, do it, and execute. Now, Zach Taylor's going to find a way to best find the system that best utilizes Andy Dalton's strengths. And I think that's a big reason why Andy Dalton is going to be very, very good this season. I think he's going to be pretty solid. And same thing for Jared Goff. Everybody thought Jared Goff was a bust. Sean McVay came in there, find a system that works and suits Jared Goff, and now Jared Goff is a Pro Bowler and he's about to break the bank in a season or two. So I think Zach Taylor, he's going to be able to have some success with Andy Dalton. And also the defense isn't that bad. Neither they have a very solid defensive line. The defensive back position is very solid as well. The big thing is the linebackers. And now we get into my fourth question. The linebackers. How good are the linebackers going to be this year? Because last year, the linebackers were god freaking awful. You could literally get a guy on the street and he could have played as good or as worse as the Cincinnati Bengals linebackers last year. Nick Vigil was the 64th best linebacker by Pro Football Focus. He had a 59.5 grade by Pro Football Focus, which is one of the worst. Then you got Preston Brown. He was even worse than Nick Vigil. I don't even think you could top that. He was the 75th best linebacker in the NFL last season with a 55.3 grade by Pro Football Focus. And I'm not done. It gets worse. Jordan Evans was even worse. He was the 78th worst linebacker in the NFL last season with a 51.9 grade by Pro Football Focus. So the linebackers were god awful. Now they picked up a couple of linebackers in the draft. Going to be interesting to see if they're going to end up starting. And Are these linebackers from last season going to improve? Because I don't know what it was. They had a very good defensive line and a very good secondary. The linebackers held back what could have been a top 10 defense last season. So the linebacking core has to improve because it was god awful. Play action passes, wide open gaps, run linebackers doing whatever, not really knowing how to play coverage. It was god awful. So they need way better production out of the linebacker unit this year, and the Cincinnati Bengals are looking to make a playoff push this season. And those are my biggest questions for the Cincinnati Bengals going into the 2019 season. So let me know what you guys think about it down in the comment section down below. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new. And thanks for watching.